Hello and welcome back to AV Chess Lab. In today's video, we will discuss the Queen's Gambit Declined Cambridge Springs variation. I will show you some of the main setups and ideas and also some of the hidden tricks that some people don't know. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Alright, so let's get started. We have d4, d5, c4, and here we enter the Queen's Gambit territory. One of the main ideas here is to trade a flank pawn for a center pawn and also to use the open c file for the rook in the future. Here black continues with e6 and he understands that keeping the structure in the center is important and is ready to meet c takes d5 with e takes d5. So white continues with knight to c3, a developing move and also putting added pressure on the pawn on d5. After knight to f6, black develops and also protects the pawn on d5. And here we have the move bishop to g5. And this pinning of the knight creates the first threat of the position, since c takes d5 can lead to a win of a pawn, simply leaving black in a bad situation. So for example, if a move like h6 is played here, we can take the knight, and if queen takes, we win a pawn by taking on d5. And if instead the g pawn takes on f6, we take on d5 and we leave the pawn structure around the king badly damaged. So after bishop to g5, knight b to d7 is played. Now here other moves can be tried. Bishop to e7 can be tried, bishop to b4 can be tried. For bishop to e7, I will leave some cards in the description for you to check out a couple of videos on those. So after knight b to d7, now here black sets up a trick of their own. It looks like the pawn on d5 is hanging, but if you take it, black wins material. So for example, if instead of here a move like c takes d5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, there's a very nice little trick here. So if you want to pause the video and figure it out, go ahead. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Alright, so if you found knight takes knight, congratulations. And this move works simply because now that if the bishop captures the queen, we have this bishop b4 check. The king cannot go anywhere, so the only move is to go queen to d2, and after bishop takes, king takes, we take the bishop, and we're simply, if we do a count, 1, 2, 3 minor pieces, 1, 2, and black should just simply win this game. So after knight b d7, setting up that trick, obviously we're not going to take on d5, and we're going to play just a developing move, knight to f3, and now this move is possible. So black needs to handle that, and he plays the move to c6. And this move also creates space for the queen to move out in some situations. From here we continue with e3, supporting the pawn on d4, and also preparing to move this bishop out. Queen to a5 is played, and here we have the starting position of the Cambridge Spring variation of the Queen's Gambit Declined. Here there are two main moves, knight to d2 and c takes d5. Let's take a quick look first at knight to d2. Before we continue, it's important to notice that if we play bishop to d3, we can actually get in trouble right away, since after d takes c4, notice that this queen is attacking the bishop and this pawn's attacking the queen's attacking the bishop and the pawn's attacking the bishop. So if this bishop captures here, we can go knight to e4, attacking the bishop, attacking the knight. So once the bishop moves, we can simply win a pawn. Alright, so coming back into the game after knight to d2, which is the best continuation here, black continues with bishop to b4, developing and trying to simply win a pawn on the next move. So queen to c2, preventing that idea from happening. And here there's two main lines. We have e5, breaking in the center, and a more slower approach with castle. I like to break in the center because in some situations the bishop on c8 can get out into the game, which is not possible if the pawn remains there. So after e5, we have the move knight to b3. attacking the queen. The queen moves to c7, out of the way, and we develop our bishop and prepare to castle. Here, since we move our bishop, black has the opportunity to now take on c4, since we're not taking in one go with tempo. Bishop takes c4, both sides castle, and here black plays the move bishop to d6. And the bishop on b4 already served its purpose while it was attacking the pawn on c3. And taking the knight, not the pawn, the knight on c3. And now taking on c3 will simply just give white the bishop pair, so that was not in the cards for white. So instead, on d6, now you create the threat on h2. So pawn takes on e5 is a big threat now. For that reason, here white has to play the move to h3. Now, not only did we prevent that threat that was happening, but we also create a square for our king in the future in case more pieces get traded and we don't get some back rank situations in which that can lead to checkmate. I'm sure some of you may have fallen for those tricks before. And the pawn on h3 also does a very good job of preventing a knight from coming to g4 or even a bishop from coming to g4 later in the game. And here, black plays a6. And this move prepares the advancement of going to b5, c5, and bishop to b7. Now, how should white continue this game as well? White should go for rook to d1 and the other rook to c1. And if the advancements on the queen side happen, this bishop can return to f1, e2. The knight can relocate themselves to e4. Maybe this bishop can be traded for the knight on f6. A lot of possibilities can happen from here, and you should try them and see how it goes. All right, so let's now go back to the other move. Instead of knight to d2, let's see what happens after c takes d5. So after c takes d5, knight takes d5, with the big threat to capture on c3, white has to play queen to d2 to protect the knight. Bishop to b4, a developing and attacking move, which is usually a good thing. Rook to c1, there was a triple threat on the knight on c3, so this move was necessary. Black puts the king in safety by castling. White plays the move bishop to d3 and gets ready to castle himself. h6 attacking the bishop. The bishop moves to h4 and e5, breaking through in the center and getting ready for some future knight to f6, which will allow the bishop from c8 to move to either e6 or bishop to g4. So here, white continues with castling and e takes d4. Now, on the previous move, before we continue, we're not really winning a pawn here, since after knight takes c3, this pawn has to capture. Pawn captures, bishop to a3, rook to d1, knight takes on e5, knight takes on e5, queen takes on e5. This position is about balance, and actually black could probably have a small plus considering the pawn structure for white. So instead, castling, e takes d4, e takes d4, black plays the move rook to e8, prepares to move the knight to f8, g6, which will open the square on d7 for the bishop to move either to e6 or g4 again. Also, white should continue with moves like h3, rook to e1, maybe even consider bishop to b1, queen to d3 to get out of the pin, which would also threaten a checkmate on h7. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you find this material useful, like and subscribe. And if there's a specific opening you would like a video about, leave a comment down below. As always, stay safe, have a great day, and show respect to your opponent. See you next time.